Welcome into the 2025 High School OT Press Box Volleyball show, welcome back to the 2025 High School OT Press Box Volleyball preview. FMOS to here as we go around the state region by region and break down all of the top teams and players. We'll also hear from some players and coaches throughout the show. We're going to start in the 252 area code. And we're going to start with some of the top teams who ended last year, 2024's rankings. DH Conley, they had a 27-2 record. They were the 4A East regional runner-up to Cardinal Gibbons. Ayden-Grifton, 29-2 overall record, made it to the fourth round of the playoffs. J.H. Rose, 23-5 a season ago. They competed in the 3A state championship match where they finished runner-up to West Henderson. Perquimans made it to the 1A state championship as well. They fell to Polk County. And then we have West Carteret, who ended the year with a 20-7 record. Turning the page over to 2025, some of the top teams in the area remain the same. Conley, they return a lot of talent, 983 kills from a year ago. That Rose team that I said finished as the state runner-up a year ago, they did not have any seniors on last year's team, and their junior varsity program went 20-1. That only loss came to Conley. Ayden-Grifton returning leaders in all of their statistical categories. Perquimans, they're bringing back a lot in their attack. And then South Central put together a nice season a year ago with a 14-9 record. They bring back some important players to their team as well. Some breakout teams that we could see in the area, teams that could splash onto the statewide stage. Holmes, who had a 21-4 year last year, they're going to bring back a lot of talent. 10 of their 12 players from last year return to the roster this fall. Lawrence Academy only graduated one senior. We mentioned Rose having a successful junior varsity program. Lawrence Academy did not drop a match last fall. And then Beargrass Charter, a lot in their attack, returning as well, over 500 kills for Beargrass Charter. Taking a look at some of the top players that are coming back into the 252, the conversation starts with NC State commit Brittany Silver, one of the leading hitters coming back in the state. The last two seasons, she has recorded over 1,000 kills. Clara Evans, who is a do-it-all player for Rose, over 500 kills, over 500 digs, over 150 aces in her career. She is a TCU Beach commit. Morgan Byram up at Perquimans. She helped lead the Pirates to that state championship appearance with over 300 kills a year ago. Out at Holmes, we just mentioned that the Aces are a team to watch for. Over 1,100 career assists for Harper Evans. You know, the interesting thing about this 252 list is many of these programs, the Roses, the Conleys, teams like Ayden-Grifton, you could probably extend out this list another 5 to 10 players for the amount that each team have. We could brag about 3 or 4 on each of these rosters. Ayden-Grifton, no different. Lainey Evans, she has over 1,000 career kills entering this season. She is one of many players to watch on the Chargers. And to talk a little bit more about that senior class and how special it is over at Ayden-Grifton, we welcome in the head coach of the Chargers, Nicole Waters. Coach, your 2026 class is a special one. They have been really dominant, and now this is their final go-around, and it feels like you've got a pretty good challenge and some high expectations for them.
So, yeah, our theme for the season, like we actually all have shirts that say big reputation on it. I guess this is our, fourth year with our, like I said, our seniors. I promised them, I remember telling Lainey back her freshman year, we will make it to the state title. We will do that. And we were talking about it earlier, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I told her, I said, I promise you something, and, I think we're going to do it this year. This is our year. They've worked real hard in the off season, and we're getting ready to go to camp next week, and they're excited. I mean, we're excited, and, this is the year. This class is super special to me. I don't know what I'm going to do when they leave, but they've been a part of this varsity program, a lot of them since they were freshmen or sophomores. So, we're looking forward to it.
I think one of the unique things was a couple of years ago, I was at a match and afterwards spoke to Lainey, and I had asked her about what kind of her goals were for the team to be able to accomplish over the final couple weeks or month of the season. And she was like, I just hope we win the conference. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, there are bigger things that you guys can accomplish. The conference is going to happen. Conference will happen, but there are some big things that this team will be able to accomplish. And now, obviously, it's in a position now where last year you go to the fourth round of the playoffs, and then this year aspirations to grab another match or two and hopefully end up in a state title match. One of the things that I think is going to help that team is a challenging schedule. You've gone out and put together a pretty good, notable non-conference slate. It starts with a gauntlet, coach. Chapel Hill, Gibbons, Cleveland, Rose, Seaforth. As we had mentioned, that was a team you faced in the playoffs last year. McMichael, who won the 2A state championship a year ago. What goes into challenging these girls? Because obviously you think so highly of them, but I feel as if this team can handle the level of these matches and learn a lot from it.
I'd put these girls against anybody. If you looked at our record from last year and who we played, I took 4 or 5 of my kids to the state playoffs, and we actually went to the championship game, and it was very tough for them to sit in the stands and see 3 or 4 teams that we actually beat, during the season. And it, like I said, it took one wrong game for us not to be there. But these girls, I mean, what I can say about these seniors and most of the whole team is they're different. They have a playful side to them. And, kind of like you said about Laney, we just want to win the conference. And, and I'm like, girls, it's time, that's not even a question. Like, it's time. It's our year. And I think taking them to the state championship game and seeing that has put a fire under them. We've been close in the off season. It's not a thing where you come in and we play a season and in October, November, you're done. These kids, I teach at the school with them. We are close all year round. So yes, putting together a schedule like that was very important to me. And I'm very appreciative to the coaches for giving us that chance too. Sometimes it can be hard to, get teams to play against you in different areas, but all of those coaches have been really good to us. And I've made a lot of, friends with these coaches, and we're looking forward to the non-conference schedule. And, hey, you never know how it's going to go, but iron sharpens iron. So we're looking forward to it.
I do remember that now, thinking back about that state title over at Reynolds Coliseum, looking around, and, you saw the Roses and teams like that. And I was like, I saw them play West Henderson. I saw them play Rose. You saw them play McMichael. So obviously that's a good way to see, like, you do belong in a place like that. Does your mindset going into this season, is it different from others, knowing that these girls are essentially, you're not having to worry about team bonding. You're not having to worry about, do they get along together? Are they going to be able to link up and play well together because they've been doing it for so long? Do you feel like as a program right now with this core that it's a few steps ahead compared to most at this time of the year?
Yes. I feel like that these kids, like I said, they spend a lot of time together. And, even when we lost last year, there wasn't a blame game. There wasn't any of that. It was just, hey, we're going to reset, and whatever it takes next year, we're going to learn from it. And it's, I feel like we're a couple steps ahead, going into camp next week. I feel good about where they're at. And like I said, I don't think anybody, nobody should doubt us, because we have some big kids. I was looking at them and I'm like, man, this is probably the biggest group of kids we've ever had. I looked in our back row and they're like so close together. And I'm like, why are they so close together? It's like, because these are some big kids. I mean, we've got a freshman that's, come in this year, Laney's sister, that's, going to do big things for us. Her name's Livy Evans. And then we've got another sophomore that's hitting out of the middle now. She played on our JV, and she got a little bit of time during the Seaforth game. She wasn't quite ready, but she spent the off season getting ready. So there's going to be some shockers out there.
And I think one of the unique things about where your program is at right now is that just volleyball in Eastern North Carolina, this has the potential to be a really marquee season, especially in Pitt County, where, now you have Conley in 7A, you're in 3A, Rose is in 6A. There's a very real chance that all 3 of these programs are sitting here right now saying, I hope to be playing in a state championship match come November. What does that say about just the talent in this sport out in this part of the state?
it says that these kids put in a lot of work, not just during the season, but in the off season. There's a lot of opportunities for these kids in this area outside of high school, volleyball, for them to still keep competing. And I think that, kind of like you said, Eastern North Carolina, I would love to see our other high schools, now that there's so many different A's, see them in the state title and be able to support them. And we appreciate, our local schools too, even though they're higher, their division's higher, is giving us a chance and playing us and giving our kids that opportunity to play at that level. And, they have a lot of friends. Our girls are friends with a lot of these other girls in the area. So it's always good to see, at games and, support them.
Well, that is the head coach of the Ayden-Grifton Chargers, Nicole Waters. Coach, we thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick break here and then head west, dive over into the 336, where we are joined by Reagan High School's Elly Randolph. Thanks again, Coach.
Thank you so much.
After a look at the 252 area code, we move westward to the 336 and the Triad area. Lots of volleyball talent out there every year. This year is no different. Before we dive into 2025, let's look at some of the programs that led the way to end 2024. HighSchoolOT's area code rankings had McMichael as the number one overall team. The Fighting Phoenix were the defending 2A state champions in the NCHSA, playing to a 30-2 overall record. Reagan, their third consecutive trip to a regional final. They had a 33-6 overall record. Wesleyan Christian made some noise in the NCISA. And then Northern Guilford and Grimsley, as always, battled it out in the Metro Conference. Northern Guilford ended 4, Grimsley ended 5. A lot of familiar faces as we look into 2025. Some of those teams, Wesleyan Christian, as we mentioned, they only graduated 2 players from last year's program. McMichael returning leaders in blocks, digs, and aces. Obviously, those are some positions that teams are really looking forward to returning, is when you can bring back your liberos, your setters, and, obviously size up front. Grimsley, a really strong senior class. Naomi Locklear, Reagan Haverstock, Morgan Falk. That senior class, 68-18 since they entered the building in 2022. Northern Guilford, as we had mentioned 2 years ago, really turned the corner with the 20-win season, and then they backed it up again last year. They have a really strong junior class coming up. And then Reagan, 106 wins over the last 3 seasons, opposed to only 8 losses. Some breakout teams that you could see in the 336 this year. Southwest Guilford, they return a lot. They went 16-9 last year. And at a lot of key positions, they are bringing back players. 10 players returned to that year's team, and a lot on their attack. 833 kills are coming back to the Rockets. And then Northwest Guilford, a team that played to around a 500 record last year, but their junior varsity went 19-0. All 38 sets that they played at the JV level, they won. Players to look out for in the 336. One of the things that I think is unique about this area of the state is, first off, there are really strong 2026 and 2027 players in this area, but not only that, they are not all married to one position or one statistical category where they really stand out. There are a lot of versatile players in this area, starting with Najari Crooks at Wesleyan Christian. We mentioned that's going to be one of the top teams in the area. She just recently committed to Penn State. Naomi Locklear at Grimsley has been one of the leading hitters over the last 2 seasons, 842 kills to her name. The Lees McCray commit is entering her senior year. Back into that 2027 class of those versatile players, Samantha Chavis over at Northern Guilford, 914 assists, over 500 kills, quickly approaching 450 digs, entering her junior year. And then McMichael, we mentioned last year's 2A state champion, Zoe Bradford, who made the move over to setter for the Phoenix. That was a huge difference, and she showed off her ability to hit as well, as she had a star performance in the state championship match. 811 career assists, 600 career kills as she enters her senior season. Bradford is a Belmont Abbey recruit. Also, some big 2027 players after that June 15th date rolled around picked some big commitments. Elly Randolph, the rising junior at Reagan High School, a 2027 commit to Kentucky. And we welcome in Elly Randolph here to the High School OT volleyball preview show. Elly, you've had a very busy summer between the U.S. National Team Development Program and between your recruiting process, but you are now entering school season as a Kentucky commit. Does it feel good to get the recruiting process and all of that weight off of your shoulders before you enter this junior season?
Yeah, it's actually such a great feeling. I don't have any more stress about having to worry about any of that stuff anymore, and I'm just excited to play.
Obviously, Kentucky's program is a national championship in the last 5 years. What was it about the Wildcats that stuck out so much and made you want to commit there?
Well, obviously, they have a great program, but I really fell in love with the coaches. The first call, I just knew that it was right. And then I also just love the culture at Kentucky. So, yes.
Well, you're coming from a program that has a pretty strong culture in Reagan. One of the things we were talking about before we went on air here, and I've told some people is you've had a unique position at Reagan where you're joining a program that has been so successful over the last couple of seasons, where you've had to carve out different roles every year. And I feel like it's kind of grown your game now entering your junior year, where you went from a rotational player freshman year and obviously the conference player of the year last year and playing alongside Gabby Nichols, who's now at Penn State. But now as you enter your junior year, all eyes are on you, and that kind of target grows a little bit bigger because you are that reigning conference player of the year. And, you are that returning Kentucky commit now that you have that pegged to your name. So what are your expectations for junior year, and how has this experience at Reagan been?
It's been such a great experience. The coaching, the players, and like you said, we do have such a strong culture at Reagan. And I'm really excited about junior year. We obviously lost some key players like Gabby and a few others, but we just got some incoming freshmen and some new players coming in. And I'm just really excited because I think they're going to play a huge role of on the court and also leadership. So I'm excited about that.
Reagan remaining in the Central Piedmont Conference. They add Northwest Guilford to the mix. This is going to be a 7A, 8A split conference. East Forsyth, Parkland, RJ Reynolds, West Forsyth, Northwest Guilford, and obviously Reagan in the mix there in that conference. One of the interesting things, Reagan now being a 7A program. Elly, this team the last 3 years has found itself a win away from participating in a state championship match. What has those experiences done to this program and yourself in particular, where you've learned from making those deep playoff runs, having to play in those, pressure-packed moments in some big matches? And do you think that helps you guys now that it's your junior year and you have 2 years worth of some pretty deep playoff runs alongside some pretty talented teammates?
Yeah, I definitely think it helps us a lot to just know that we can get there and hopefully get further this year. But I think I've really taken from it that just to make sure that my teammates are in a good state during the games, because we might be down some and you can see that they're like face changes. And I feel like that's really like, as a captain, one of my jobs to make sure that they are okay and like just keep going.
You mentioned, there's going to be a little bit of a different feel in terms of personnel on this upcoming season's team. But one of the things you had mentioned is there's going to be some familiarity, at least with yourself, and your duo of setters, Callie Largent, Carly Weiss. How important is that chemistry, and how important is it going to be when there's going to be some other girls that they're going to be setting for, and just having to build that connection there? Does it help that you kind of already have that kind of cohesiveness with that duo?
Yeah, I definitely think it helps because I've been there with them for 2 years now because they were double rostered my freshman year. So I think it definitely helps with me. And I think so far with summer workouts that they've been connecting really well with our other new hitters. And I think it's going to be a really great season.
What is it about Reagan's volleyball program that is so special and allows it to have success every single season, regardless of, who graduates or what year it is? It just feels like, with Coach Balser, everything just is status quo in terms of what you guys are able to accomplish as a team.
Yeah, we obviously have amazing players every year, but one big thing about Reagan is that we're always having fun. You can see us on the court, we're always cheering, we're always just having the best time. We also work very hard. We are in practice all the time, and when we are in practice, we love to have fun, but we have to make sure we get our work done. So I think just having fun on the court just makes us Reagan. So.
Well, that is Elly Randolph, one of the newest commits to the Kentucky volleyball program and one of the stars at Reagan High School in the 336 area code. We are going to take a quick break and continue on. We're going to stay in the West, go down to the 704 area code, preview some of those teams, players, and speak to Kings Mountain head coach Heather Pasour. You are watching the HighSchoolOT volleyball preview show. Welcome back. We continue on here in the HighSchoolOT Press Box 2025 volleyball preview. We stay in the West, moving from the 336 area code over to the 704. Before we get started, let's dive into some of the top teams that were in the area this past fall in 2024. Marvin Ridge led those rankings as the top team. They were the NCHSA 4A state runner-up. They did not drop a set in the state until they made it to the state final. Davidson Day was in at number 2. They ended up winning the NCISA 3A state title. North Iredell and Kings Mountain always dominant in the 3A state playoffs. They came in at 3-4, and then Lake Norman, who put together a really strong season and had a marquee victory in the state playoffs, they were number 5. Transitioning over to 2025, here are some teams that you can look to stand out this upcoming season. Kings Mountain, they return a host of starters from last year and a strong JV program. Marvin Ridge, while they do graduate 4 starters, they still have a handful of role players who really stepped up big down the stretch last year. And in the postseason, they also had a strong junior varsity. Weddington, they got off to a scorching hot start last year, and they only graduated 2 players from that team that went 17-10 overall. They also were very dominant at the junior varsity level. North Iredell, as always, a power up in Iredell County. And then Cox Mill, Jordan Gray, Elena Walker, one of the best duos in the state of North Carolina. Obviously, Gray, a Louisville commit. Walker just pledged her commitment to Morgan State. It'll be their senior year under new head coach Jan Dowling, who joins the Chargers after a long tenure at West Rowan. Some other teams that could break out on the statewide stage from the 704. Community School of Davidson, they had a really strong season last year, bringing back 9 returners from a 24-5 campaign. Jesse Carson, they also had a really strong go of it in conference, 15-1 in the league. They bring back a lot this season. East Rowan, who had a really strong season and had some pretty good battles with Community School of Davidson, Jesse Carson, they bring back a lot in blocks, aces, digs, assists, lots of key statistical categories that you like to see teams returning. And then Pine Lake Prep only graduated 1 player from last year, another program that has the potential to break out in 2025. Then going through talking about some of the top players that you could watch in the area. We mentioned Jordan Gray, the Louisville commit, over 1,200 career kills entering her senior season. 2 years ago, she helped lead Cox Mill to an appearance in the 4A state championship. Natalie Unkrich, she helped take Marvin Ridge to the 4A title match last year, averaging 3.1 kills per set. The Mavericks are going to lean heavily on Unkrich this year on the outside. Also, staying in Union County, Riley Parker of Sun Valley. She has racked up tons of assists over her 3-year career so far, but also is on the precipice of 750 career kills and 750 career digs. She should be able to get that in one of her first appearances this August. Also, out at Cuthbertson, the Central Florida commit, Jalen Carter, 398 kills last season. And then down in Cleveland County at Kings Mountain, Camden Pasour, who helped lead the Mountaineers to the 3A state championship in 2023, brings in over 2,500 assists. We've talked a lot about Kings Mountain, how they are one of the top programs that people can expect this upcoming season. Their head coach, Heather Pasour, now joins us here in the High School OT press box. Coach, an exciting summer. It's always this part of the year. You're about a week or two away from the start of matches and preseason events. Always very exciting. Are you guys kind of in that point right now where you're just ready to get out there and have these games count?
Yeah, we're currently in a dead period, but we went to a camp last week and resting up, and we're ready to start Monday back at Open Gyms.
This program always very strong. What are some of the expectations that you have out of this year's group? Obviously, a state title 2 years ago, and one of the things that when you look at Kings Mountain Volleyball and you look at this program, it feels like no matter who it is that this program graduates, there's always players just ready to step up and keep it moving. Year in and year out, the faces may change, but the success has seemed to stay the same.
Yeah, a few years back, we kind of started focusing on every game instead of just our conference. We treat every game, whether it's non-conference, scrimmage, tournaments, whatever, the same, and we purpose to try to prepare for the playoffs as we come up on it.
One of the things changing this year for your program, obviously moving up from 3A to the 6A classification, you mentioned, putting an emphasis on playing matches that can prepare your program for more than just the conference slate. What do you value when you find these non-conference opponents and you go around and try to find the right programs for your team that you feel like is going to make them better by the time October rolls around?
Well, there's a lot of things that kind of weigh in. One is I want some competition that'll prepare me at the next level. Then you also got the RPI that you have to kind of play around with and make sure that they're in the kind of top 1 to 2 of their conference. So we always, when I'm scheduling, I have to go back and tell you what their last year's record looked like.
And one of the things, I think is great that your program's able to do is obviously your annual invitational brings in some of the top teams. I feel like every year that I've gone there, I'm seeing state championship previews or teams that are going to play in regional finals in 4th, 5th round. And I just think that speaks to kind of that mindset of how you're going to prepare your players. How are you going to let them play teams that they're not typically used to playing or playing on stages against, some of the top talent out there. Speaking of that, you have a lot of really talented players returning to this year's team. This senior class has been really successful. It's seen this program win a state championship, and obviously I'm sure the girls in that locker room are going to be very hungry this year to, go out and try to get another one. What do you hope to get out of this senior class? What makes them so special and what has allowed them to find so much success over the past couple of seasons?
Well, we have 8 seniors this year. I know that on the thing it mentions 4, but they're very connected. We started a few years back a 5th grade intermediate program, and these seniors have all kind of participated in that program. So we've seen them since they were 11, 12 years old in the gym.
And then
the senior group makes me a little emotional when I talk about them. So.
Obviously some strong ties and all of that with this senior group. And, this is going to be a season that I think will be very memorable for this program, obviously. Well, best of luck to you, Coach. We thank you for stopping by and joining us for a few minutes here. The Kings Mountain Mountaineers, as we said, one of the top programs entering this 2025 fall volleyball season. We will take a quick break, come on back and stay in the West, go to the mountains, and talk 8-2-8 volleyball. You are watching the High School OT Volleyball Preview Show here in the High School OT Press Box. We are back here on the High School OT volleyball preview. We just talked to Heather Pasour, the head coach at Kings Mountain High School in the 704 area code. We are going to stay in the West, head out to the mountains, and let's talk 828 volleyball. First, some of the top teams from a year ago. The West featured a lot of state champions in 2024, including West Henderson, who ended the year atop High School OT's area code rankings, a 26-2 overall record, and they were the 3A title winners. Polk County ended up winning the 1A championship, a 22-3 overall record. They came in second. Asheville Christian, they went through a lot of adversity last year with Hurricane Helene and still were able to make it to the NCISA state championship, where they suffered their only loss of the year to Davidson Day. Brevard had a strong season. They won a state title 2 years back. They finished with an 18-5 overall record. And then Cherokee came in fifth in our area code rankings with a 25-2 overall record a year ago. Now stepping towards 2025, Brevard, they bring back a strong core from a year ago. They're looking to add to their attack. They graduated some size up front, but they had a 20-0 JV team a year ago. Cherokee, as we mentioned, their returning leaders are back in all statistical categories. Again, they made it to a regional final last year. Hickory, they bring back 13 players from a team that went 21-4 in 2024. Franklin, they're a really interesting team. They could really break out this upcoming season. They had a strong season last year, graduated a fair amount, but a lot like Brevard, they're bringing back an unbeaten junior varsity team, and so that will help replenish the core there for the Panthers. And then, as we had mentioned, Asheville Christian, their leaders in blocks, digs, and assists return this fall, and that is always key when you can bring back some of your liberos and your setters. Some of the top players to watch for in the 828 are a lot of setters. The Mountains are very strong for that, especially in this 2026 class. Charlie Dusenberry, as we mentioned, helped lead Polk County to the state championship last year. Holland Corbin was a setter on West Henderson's team in 2024. And then Morgan Baldridge, the Furman recruit at Brevard, is quickly approaching 200 career assists. 2,000 career assists, excuse me. She should be getting that in the first couple of matches of this fall. She was a state champion in 2023. Emmy Gamble over at Hickory. We mentioned Hickory is going to be one of those top teams in this area. She had 845 kills over her first 2 seasons of high school volleyball. And then Cherokee, Joscelyn Stamper leads a lot of statistical categories for the Lady Braves. She had 429 kills a year ago. And we welcome in Joscelyn Stamper to the show. Is it a lot easier going into your junior season with so much experience with this group under your belt?
It's so much easier. You can come in, you're so much more confident playing with these girls, not even in high school, for my whole life really. That sisterhood, that bond that you really get, it's unmatched, and you can really tell when teams do have that and when teams don't, and so being able to take losses and not just have to take it personally, being able to take it as a team and understanding and learning from it and moving on, it speeds the process up a lot and helps you get through that.
Obviously, you all play together in a lot of different sports, but making that run that you made last year on the volleyball court, what did you all learn from that? Obviously, you had some really tough battles down the stretch there in the playoffs, and then getting to the Polk County match there at the end. What do you guys take away from that kind of lights a fire under you going into this season?
Really going into this season, learning from that loss, really learning what were our weaknesses, what did we do that, we can really focus on preseason and getting ready for that first game. And so, definitely learning from it and then just moving on. You can't continue to dwell in that, or else that'll become everything, your whole reality. And so learning from it as quickly as possible, getting back in the gym and just moving forward.
Obviously, you balance a lot of sports between basketball, also in throwing and track. How do you stay refined for volleyball? And is there anything that you hope to add to your game this year that will help separate you and your team, from the rest of this year?
Yeah. Juggling everything. It was a lot at first. But definitely cross training, that's really helped me a lot. Lifting for multiple different things at the same time, practices. But I couldn't do it without my coaching staff on all the sports. The flexibility that they have with me truly is something that not a lot of people have. And so them allowing me to maybe miss a practice, maybe miss a team event to go for another sport, but the coaching staff has really helped me a lot and being understanding with that. And then coming up on this year, I really don't have a specific thing that I'm looking to improve on. That's something that we pride ourselves on as Lady Braves, is being able to flourish in all different areas, being able to pass, to serve, to set. You know, we could probably do 6 rotations and just rotate if we needed to. But yeah, just strengthening everything, you know, definitely taking that loss and taking preseason losses and just learning from them and moving on.
This year, you guys are moving up to the 2A classification, and there are going to be a lot of familiar faces there, but already starting to look at, the teams that are some of the top ones coming into 2A. Obviously, you all sit there, but so does Cornerstone Charter, a team that you went 5 sets with in the 4th round of the playoffs last year. What did you guys take away from that match? Because I feel like part of that match was the fact that you were facing a team in Cornerstone that, you weren't really familiar with, and it was a team that had as much size as you all had and had the athleticism and the depth that you all have it with the Lady Braves. So what do you take away from that match? Because it feels like all eyes are on your program and then Cornerstone's program in the 2A West.
Yeah. Taking away from that match, something that we really pride ourselves on and really we do a lot of work with is our defense. And so being a defensive team truly does help us, because you're not always going to get that kill. You're going to have a big block in your face sometimes. And so being able to take that and really shut players down defensively, that's something that we really pride ourselves on. And so learning from that game, I do remember they had a few hitters, and so being able to kind of take some of that heat off of it, as me personally being the block, being able to take some of that heat off and stopping it right there if I can, but knowing that my backcourt behind me has my back, even if it does get through, and then just going from there. But definitely, we don't really get to play them that often. They come from the other side, and so new faces, but I think we'll be pretty good.
Well, that is Joscelyn Stamper of the Cherokee Lady Braves volleyball team. They're getting started in just a couple of days. We're going to take one more break here on the High School OT volleyball preview show. And when we come back, we will dive into the 910 area code out in the East and talk to Grays Creek head coach, Amber Strickland. Moving from the western part of the state in the 828 out in the mountains down to the sandhills and the coast, the 910. Time to take a look at some of the top volleyball teams in that area. We will start with the teams that finished last year atop High School OT's area code rankings in the 910. Topsail led that list with a 23-2 overall record from a season ago. Obviously, the Pirates had 2 outstanding SEC-bound players in Nia Curry and Ryan Lambert. Grays Creek made a nice run last year, 21-5 overall. Hoggard, the Vikings, they're usually atop one of these lists, but Topsail got them a couple times last year. They ended up finishing 3rd. Cape Fear, who was also in a league with Grays Creek, came in at 4. And Pinecrest came in at 5. As we transition over to 2025, some of the top teams to watch for, as we mentioned, Grays Creek right back in the mix, Midway, Hoggard, Cape Fear, and Wallace Rose Hill. Some of the teams that could break out this year in the 910. You look at Mintz Christian. One of the interesting things with Mintz Christian, they are now a member of the NCISAA. They were 28-3 a year ago, and they return a lot from that team, only losing a little bit in their attack. One of the things, though, about Mintz Christian, they are a provisional NCISA program, so they are banned from the playoffs in the NCISA for their first 2 seasons, but they are a team to watch for in terms of success down in the 910. Then we also look at Laney and Union Pines. The Buccaneers bring back a lot from 2024, and so does Union Pines. Some of the top players to look for in the 910. Let's start with Angelina Caballero over at Wallace Rose Hill. She returns to the floor for the Bulldogs with over 400 kills last season. Also racked up a ton of aces, 94 to her name. Tabitha Newland out at Cape Fear had a breakout year last year and looks to build on that as a senior at Cape Fear. 345 kills last year as a junior. Ella Clark over at Midway, 800 assists to her name as she enters her junior year. Lawson Barrett, the setter, over at Pinecrest, had 600 assists last season. And then Taylor Baggett at Grays Creek, the Western Carolina commit, a second-team All-State member for HighSchoolOT a year ago. She had 332 kills for the Bears. And we bring in Taylor Baggett's high school coach, Amber Strickland, the head coach of the Grays Creek Bears. Coach, a lot to be excited about this year because you have a really, really strong senior class coming in. Dive a little bit deeper into what makes that class so special.
Yes, sir. So this class, they've been playing together for years. So just their chemistry on the court and off the court just makes our success even better. So I'm happy to see what they'll do their senior year and all that they accomplished this year for sure.
So it's not just Taylor. Obviously, Elly just recently committed. Elly Feliciano just recently committed to UNC Pembroke. But you just have a strong core. Who are some of those players that really help make your team go?
So Elly and Taylor have absolutely been pivotal in shaping the direction of our program. Elly's vision and leadership on the court just continues to grow each and every year. She's not just setting the ball, she's setting the tone for our offense and even working with our younger setters to kind of make sure we still have that offense even after she leaves. She just reads the game very well. She adjusts very quickly to different situations, and that's always been key to our success as well. She also has a very high volleyball IQ, so it allows her to make very quick and effective decisions during matches. On the other hand, Taylor's presence as an outside hitter just has been a constant force for us over the past 3 years. She's very versatile. She has the ability to play front row and back row. So it makes her one of our go-to in very critical moments as well. We also have 2 DSs, 1 libero that is a senior. They both have contributed a lot to our success in the past few years as well. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do defensively in the back row and just see how they all come together to make our goals come to life.
Because you have so many players returning and so much experience on the floor, does that change your approach with how you enter this season and how you prepare for this year? Because a lot is already kind of being taken care of by the fact that they've played together for so long.
Yeah, so I think having that core group of returners definitely gives us a unique advantage. It kind of allows us to push forward with understanding both our offense and defense very well, but providing the flexibility to experiment with new strategies and those new people that are going to be on the team outside of that core group. Like I said, they've played together for years, so it allows us to focus more on fine tuning, execution, and just adding layers to our playbook outside of things that they're already very good at. If that makes sense. So yeah, I'm excited to see how they welcome in the new people and how these first couple practices go before our game.
A lot of those top programs in the area that we were going down are on your schedule for this year. So being able to challenge your team and make sure that they're at their best by the time late October, early November rolls around, how important is it to build out a schedule? And obviously as a coach, I'm sure it gives you a lot of confidence to be out and to go out and schedule whoever you want because your team is ready for those moments because they've been together for so long.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of scheduling, we look to balance competitive matches with opportunities to experiment and continue to develop. So we know the importance of playing those high caliber teams. So we've designed our schedule to challenge them a little bit, but to also provide moments for growth because I believe that's super important. So that allows us to build the team chemistry and resilience we need, especially for the postseason. So I think it's really crucial that we don't plateau and that we just continue to evolve as the season progresses. And I think that starts with starting off playing those super high level teams for sure.
One of the unique things I think about your program is that this year, obviously moving to 6A from 4A, one thing that I found unique that we had discussed a couple seasons back was there was so much depth in 4A with there being so many teams that it made a program like yours a little bit difficult to navigate when the last 10 state champions in the 4A came from Wake County in the Triangle, and it made it difficult, to navigate through that region of the state. But now that you look around at 6A, none of those teams are there anymore. Does that, change how you kind of look at this season being in a different classification and being in a smaller classification and one that's kind of more fit to your school?
Yeah, so I definitely think the move to 6A definitely presents like a new challenge, but we're definitely excited to tackle those. The level of competition at 6A will be tougher, but I know our program will is well equipped to rise to that and to keep going and be successful. In 4A, like you said, we did have to navigate like the different volume of teams, so that was difficult at times, and the competition felt more varied in terms of skill level. And 6A, I'm sure we'll be facing teams that are pretty strong across the board, especially in playoffs. So it allows us to kind of expect a high level of play from everyone that we play, especially non-conference and during conference. It's definitely going to force us to be more disciplined and focused, but I definitely believe that's a good step for us to keep us going successful and not plateau, like I said earlier. So they've already kind of shown that they're ready for that challenge, and I'm definitely confident that they'll embrace it and rise to the occasion this season and do what they got to do to hopefully put us farther than the third round of playoffs this year.
Well, as we had up there, Grays Creek in the Tri-County 6A, 7A conference, also in that league in 6A are Scotland and Terry Sanford. Cape Fear, Lumberton, and Purnell Sweat are in the league as 7A. Kind of a little bit of a unique situation where Cape Fear last year was 3A, Grays Creek was 4A. Now they flip, and Cape Fear is the bigger 7A, and Grays Creek is now down at 6A. And then some of those top 6A programs to look out for, as we mentioned, Grays Creek, J.H. Rose, who was last year's 3A state runner-up, Kings Mountain, who won 3A 2 years ago, Middle Creek, who won 4A 2 years ago, and then Northern Guilford, who had a 45-9 record over the last 2 seasons. They've really taken off under new coaching over the last couple of years. Coach, we thank you for stopping by and joining us for a little bit. We're going to take a quick break and then dive into the 919 area code. You are watching the High School OT Volleyball Preview. From the 910, we head over to the 919 for the final edition of the High School OT Volleyball Preview. Let's jump right into it with some of the top teams from a year ago. Leading the way was Cardinal Gibbons. The Crusaders went unbeaten last year and took home the 4A state championship. Green Level, not too far behind, made a deep run in the playoffs with a 23-3 overall record. Chapel Hill, as always, a strong season at 27-2. Seaforth really splashed onto the scene, a 25-5 record. The Hawks were the 2A state runner-up last year. And then you have Green Hope at 20-4. A lot of those teams are right back in the mix this season. Cardinal Gibbons leads the way. They only graduated 3 players from last year's team. Green Level brings back a lot, especially in that sophomore class. They also had a really strong JV program last year. Seaforth, as we had mentioned, 5 of their 6 starters are returning from last year's state champion runner-up. And then Green Hope returns leaders in all of their statistical categories. And Cleveland, a strong attack, over 900 kills for the Rams, return in 2024. Some breakout teams that could be in the contention for a possible deep run in the playoffs or really splashing onto the statewide scene. You have Apex Friendship. They bring back a lot from last year's team. They're going to be in a really tough conference. Cedar Ridge, 18-7 last year, but their entire starting lineup returns. They were really strong a few years back. And then you have New Life Camp, a homeschool program that went 38-1 last season. I think one of the things with New Life Camp that sticks out is they were beating some pretty strong NCISA programs last year, and they have loaded up this year with some pretty strong NCHSA programs, among those East Chapel Hill and Millbrook. Players that you can watch for in the 919. It starts with, I'll add, kind of like we talked about in our 252 preview, there are a lot of girls that it goes beyond 5 on this list. You could stretch this out to 10 or 15 and really brag about the talent in this area. A ton of ACC and SEC talent. Let's start with Taylor Bruce at Green Hope. The Georgia recruit comes in with over 570 career kills. Lindley Miller at Green Level put together a all-state performance last year, and she is a UNC recruit. Jolene Otto, as we mentioned, Cleveland returns a lot. The Tennessee commit has over 500 career kills and 300 career blocks. Kalani Ladaja Brewer just recently pledged her commitment to Louisville. The Chapel Hill junior had 397 kills last year. And then Genevieve Harris, the setter at Cardinal Gibbons, a Texas recruit, obviously quickly approaching 2,000 career assists at the high school level. She helped lead the Crusaders to the state championship last year and was named the NC Gatorade Player of the Year. Genevieve joins us now here on our volleyball preview. Obviously a very busy summer for you, Genevieve, out in Colorado right now with USA Volleyball. What has that experience been like? I know just recently you were able to take home a silver medal.
Yeah, USA Volleyball is an experience that not all people get, but it's one that no one will ever forget. It's amazing to be surrounded by people who are better than you and, want it just as bad as you do. And I think the coaches and the staff always go above and beyond, and that's what makes it really special. Just the people and the game combined is just truly an unforgettable experience.
You have a lot of expectations, obviously, anytime you put on the Cardinal Gibbons uniform, but now doing so as an unbeaten state champion a year ago. What's kind of the mindset going into this season for this program, knowing that, you are the standard in the state of North Carolina for, what teams aspire to be in volleyball?
I think we all definitely are looking for another state championship, especially with the new division changes, which makes it so that we're not in the top of the top anymore, unfortunately. But so I think with that, we're all definitely looking to win another one and be back-to-back and finish strong. And also just continue to build on the fluidity of our team, because we just really we're super intertwined with each other, and we all hang out at each other's houses, and it was just a really great connected team. I think that's part of the reason why we were able to be so successful. So I think we just want to keep building on that and have fun and enjoy it.
One of the strengths of the Cardinal Gibbons program always seems to be that there's depth and so many players that can just fill into different spots. Obviously, there are going to be a few positions on the floor that you guys are going to be filling in from a year ago. But it feels like this program is built to last and is built to not miss a step. What is that a testament to?
I think Logan does a really great job of making sure that he's developing everybody. We do a lot of drills that are not just tailored to one position or to one skill set. It's very general sometimes, which makes it so that everybody can step in and fill a different role, which is obviously very important for us, especially as we face big opponents and we need to switch things up, not even because we're struggling, but maybe just for a different look. So that's very helpful. But yeah, we have some roles that we need to fill, and we're not exactly sure what's going to happen, but I'm confident in whatever does.
And as we mentioned, there are a lot of ACC, SEC level recruits, some potential Big Ten level recruits that are in this area. The 919, obviously one of the stronger volleyball regions in the state. The last 10 4A state champions came from Wake County. As you look around at, all of the talent that's in the area, your team included, Haley Mueller just committed to Duke, Mary Grace Gagno, obviously a Virginia recruit. How special is that to know that night in, night out, in the off season, working out, club, regardless, you're always going to be surrounded with so much talent right in your backyard? And how much does that challenge you and drive you as a player?
Yeah, being surrounded by people who are at an elite level is really a privilege, because as the saying goes, you slowly become who you surround yourself with. And so our team is just so focused on one goal altogether. And through that goal, we all push each other and work hard, and we all also want to succeed outside of high school season. So it's really important for us to continue that drive and push each other for not just our goal within high school, but also beyond high school. So I think that also drives a lot of what we do.
Your resume is loaded with about every accolade a high school volleyball player could dream of. But entering your senior season, what is there left for you to accomplish, and what are you hoping to get out of this final run with Cardinal Gibbons?
I think I definitely obviously want to win another state championship. I don't really care about being MVP, but just being there for my team the best I can. And then I also want to win Gatorade Player of the Year again if I can. I'd love to win the national one, but that's definitely a lofty goal. And I also want to finish with like 2.5 thousand assists, because last year, since I was injured for a while, kind of like took a toll on my assist count, and I'd love to like get that number higher just to look back at it and enjoy it.
Well, that is Genevieve Harris, the setter for the reigning state champions at Cardinal Gibbons. Thank you for joining us, Genevieve.
Yes, thank you.